Picture a Viking longship in the dead of winter 1,000 years ago. Waves the size of buildings crash over the deck. The temperature plunges below freezing as Arctic winds tear at the rigging. For weeks on end, the crew is exposed to a level of cold that would kill a modern person in hours, with no cabin, no shelter, and most remarkably of all, no fire. So how did they do it? How did Viking crews survive and even conquer the most treacherous waters on Earth without the one tool humanity has always used to fight the cold? The answer isn't that they were just tougher. The answer, uncovered by painstaking archaeology at over 8 major ship sites, is a multi-part survival system so brilliant and so counterintuitive, it will shatter everything you think you know about their technology. They didn't just endure the cold, they engineered a way to master it, making a calculated choice that prioritized strategy over comfort. Before we get to how they stayed warm, we have to understand the shocking truth. Vikings never heated their ships. This wasn't because they lacked the technology, it was a deliberate life-or-death decision. A Viking longship was a perfectly designed incendiary bomb. The overlapping clinker-built planks were sealed with flammable tar. The gaps were stuffed with tarred animal hair. The rigging was waterproofed with pine pitch. And the sail, a massive sheet of wool treated with animal fat, was essentially a giant torch waiting for a single spark. Unlike later ships, the longship was completely open. There were no fire breaks, no way to contain a blaze. Maritime archaeology studies indicate a fire could consume an entire vessel in under 4 minutes. For a Viking sailor, the choice was simple: freeze slowly or burn quickly. They chose to fight the cold. But how do we know this for sure? The proof lay hidden for a millennium, waiting at the bottom of a fjord. The most definitive evidence comes from Roskilde Fjord in Denmark, where the legendary Skulderlev ships were discovered. These 5 vessels, warships, cargo ships, fishing boats, were exhaustively excavated. Archaeologists found tool chests, water barrels, and traces of food. But across all 5 ships, they found a stunning absence. Not a single heating device, no fire-resistant hearths, no braziers, nothing. This pattern repeats at every major Viking ship discovery. The spectacular Oseberg ship contained cooking pots, but they were burial goods for the afterlife, never used at sea. The Gokstad ship had massive water tanks, but 0 cooking facilities. The sagas confirm this. Ancient Norwegian law codes actually mandated that ship's cooks make multiple trips to shore each day to prepare meals. Interestingly, this wasn't unique to Vikings in Northern Europe. Anglo-Saxon and Frisian ship archaeology shows the exact same pattern. No heating, reliance on shore-based cooking. This stands in stark contrast to Mediterranean cultures. Roman and Byzantine naval vessels had long included bronze braziers and even dedicated galley areas with chimneys. But those innovations never transferred north, due to different ship designs and the simple fact that a fire that gets out of control on the calm Mediterranean is an incident. On the stormy North Atlantic, it's a death sentence. So, with fire off the table, how did they survive? The first layer of their system was the most advanced textile technology of its age. Archaeological finds from places like Hirschholm in Greenland reveal their mastery of wool. They cultivated different grades of wool for specific purposes. An outer layer woven so densely it was nearly windproof and water-resistant, and inner layers designed for pure insulation. Crucially, wool keeps you warm even when it gets damp, a life-saving property on a wave-battered longship. They also used sealskin for outer layers and fur from wolves and bears for linings. But they had an even more ingenious innovation, a daily ritual described in the Laxdæla saga. To maximize heat retention, crew members would have their sleeves sewn shut at the wrist each morning. Not tied, not buttoned. Sealed tight with a bone needle and waxed thread, creating an airtight barrier against heat loss. Before a battle or landing, a warrior would simply slice the threads open with his knife. This was wearable survival engineering, creating a personal microclimate. But even the best clothing in the world can't generate heat. It only traps what's already there. So what happened when they had to sleep for hours in the freezing dark? This is where they deployed their most intimate and effective innovation, the hudfat. Forget the Hollywood image of Vikings wrapped in individual furs. The sagas described these as waterproof skin bags. In reality, they were two-person sleeping bags, likely made of sheepskin with the fur turned inwards. They were designed not for privacy, but for pure thermal efficiency. Two bodies in a small insulated space generate compound heat, maintaining a temperature 15 to 20 degrees warmer than the outside air. It was a human-powered furnace. The system was even more brilliant. The Land Namabok documents how crews were assigned sleeping partners based on watch schedules. When one sailor stood watch, his partner's body heat kept the bag warm. When they switched, the second man entered an already heated environment. The sleeping space never went completely cold. They slept on platforms above the cold bilge, and the lowered sail often acted as a giant tent over the whole ship, trapping the collective body heat of the entire crew. To generate all that body heat, the crew needed a massive caloric intake, food that required no cooking. Their entire provisioning system was designed for cold consumption. Excavations at sites like Hedeby and York have uncovered their secrets. Their primary fuel was dried fish, or stockfish, which remained edible for years. They also carried ship's biscuits, a form of hardtack bread baked to be completely devoid of moisture that wouldn't spoil in the salt spray. But their most ingenious creation was a congealed porridge system. Before departure, cooks would prepare massive quantities of oat or barley porridge, but with huge amounts of butter and salt added as preservatives. This mixture would solidify into a nutrient-dense, high-calorie paste. On the ship, a crewman could either eat a chunk of this paste directly or mix it with cold water to create an instant uncooked meal. It was the original protein bar, an engine of 2,000 to 3,000 calories per day, essential for survival. So they had the clothing, the sleeping system, and the food. But the final part of their strategy reveals they weren't just enduring these conditions, they were actively managing them. Vikings didn't actually stay at sea continuously for months. Recent coastal surveys have uncovered a vast network of over 200 documented harbors and shore stops from Norway to Newfoundland. They would hop from one base to another. Research at a massive winter camp in Torksey, England, revealed the truth. This wasn't just a beach, it was a 55-hectare city with workshops, family accommodations, and, most importantly, proper hearths and sophisticated land-based cooking systems. These were, in effect, floating heating stations. The Vikings would sail their fast, lightweight, fireless ships to a shore base, haul the vessel onto the beach, and then use their advanced technology to get properly warm, cook hot meals, and re-provision before the next leg of the journey. They deliberately avoided winter sailing when possible, using carefully calculated weather windows to make survival achievable rather than just heroic. This entire physical system was supported by an equally important psychological one. Evidence from over 50 Viking camps has revealed more than 300 gaming pieces, dice, and carved entertainment items. These weren't just for fun, they were deliberate psychological strategies. Researchers believe that organized gaming, storytelling, and competition helped crews endure the extreme discomfort by maintaining morale and a sense of community. The Vikings understood intuitively that a person's mental state directly affected their physical endurance, something we now recognize as psychological thermogenesis. A bored, demoralized crew gets cold faster than an engaged, focused one. By keeping their minds sharp and their spirits up, they kept their bodies warmer. The Vikings conquered the North Atlantic not despite their lack of shipboard heating, but because of their decision to reject it. This wasn't a limitation, it was a calculated trade-off. By eliminating heavy and dangerous fire equipment, their ships were faster, lighter, and could carry more valuable cargo, a critical advantage in raiding and trade. The 2007 Sea Stallion voyage, a modern reconstruction of a Viking ship, proved this system works. The crew, using only authentic methods, survived the North Sea crossing in challenging conditions without any fire, confirming that the combination of wool clothing, social warming, and proper management was absolutely critical. They didn't just endure the cold, they systematically engineered their clothing, their social structures, their food, their infrastructure, and even their psychology around it. They reached North America 500 years before Columbus in open boats, deliberately choosing to sail without fire, because they had developed something far more powerful, a complete system of survival based on cooperation, planning, and sheer strategic brilliance.